Welcome to lecture 16 of International Finance. We are continuing our discussion on international arbitrage. Moving towards the contents, in previous video lecture we discussed triangular arbitrage, right? And in this video we are going to discuss the last arbitrage, the type of arbitrage that we are going to cover in this course, which is called covered interest arbitrage. And then we are going to discuss how the exchange rate realigns due to covered interest arbitrage. So starting with the definition of covered interest arbitrage, the covered interest arbitrage is the process of capitalizing or earning profit on the interest rate differential between two countries while covering for exchange rate risk. So there are two elements of this definition. The first one is capitalizing on interest rate differential. What do we mean by that? So for example, there is a country A and there is country B. For example, the interest rate in country A is 5% and interest rate in country B is 10%. For now, assume that it's 1st January today, and for example, the exchange rate is this is our home country, so the exchange rate would be, let's just say, 100 rupees per dollar. So now, coming back to the example, where would the investor want to invest their money? Where would they like to deposit their money? Would they like to deposit in their home country and earn 5%, or would they like to deposit in a foreign country where the interest rate is 10%? Obviously, they would like to invest in country B where the interest rate is 10% to capitalize on the interest rate differential. So now we understand this part of the definition is that in covered interest arbitrage means capitalizing on or earning profit from the interest rate differences. So invest in higher interest giving country. Now, but the issue is that this fund would be invested on 1st of January and the interest would, let's say, be earned. This is an annual interest, so we would have to tie up our fund for 1 year and then we would buy back the dollars. The exchange rate might change. Now, this is the risk that is there for the investor, that the exchange rate might change. So let's call it exchange rate risk. So what the investor wants to do is capitalize on the interest rate differential, but at the same time they want to cover themselves, they want to safeguard themselves, they want to protect themselves from the changes in exchange rate. Because if the exchange rate fluctuates in a way that this extra 5% return is adjusted in that change in exchange rate, then that might turn into a loss. So by covered in this covered interest arbitrage, we mean protecting the investor from the exchange rate risk. So now we understand what covered interest arbitrage means. So we know that interest rate is certain. So once we know that it is going to be 10%, then our deposit would earn 10% if it is a fixed interest rate. But one thing that is uncertain is the exchange rate. So we need to cater for this risk. Now, as opposed to the previous two arbitrages that we have discussed, the locational arbitrage and the triangular arbitrage, the locational and triangular arbitrage do not tie up fund. That is, our fund is we have liquidity, right? But in case of covered interest arbitrage, our funds are tied up for the time period that we have deposited it into the bank, right? Interest would be earned if we deposit them for some time period, obviously. Okay, so moving towards an example, let's say we have an investment of $8 lakh. The current spot rate of British pounds, 1 British pound is equal to $1.60. The forward rate is also $1.60 per pound. Let's say in United States the interest rate is 2% and in UK the interest rate is 4%. Now remember, how would the investor cater for exchange rate risk? Using some kind of a derivative, and one that can easily be used is forward contract, right? So this is what this is mentioned. We have mentioned here is forward trade, because to cater for this exchange rate risk, to minimize this or eliminate this exchange rate risk, the investor would go for a forward trade. Okay, so what we need to do is we know that this investor would not invest in US, rather they would convert their funds into UK, into pounds, invest it in a bank, deposit it in a bank in the UK, and then after some time they would reconvert it back into dollars. So in this case we are assuming that it would be 90 days. So for example, on 1st of January the investor would convert this $8 lakh into pounds. So at what rate would it convert? Obviously the spot rate. This is the rate that is currently prevailing in the market. So that we would take the reciprocal. So that would be 1 pound by $1.60. So now we would have 5 lakh pounds. At the same time, this investor would enter into a forward contract. On 1st of January, this investor would enter into a forward contract with the bank that after 90 days we would reconvert some dollar amount, right? Let's just say for now 5,20,000 into dollars. We would sell the pounds, 5,20,000 pounds, and buy back the dollars at this specific rate. This rate is fixed, so now whatever the rate is in the market at the time of conversion, on expiration of this 90-day time period, the investor's exchange rate would be fixed. So now assume that after 90 days, that would become say 31st of March, this 5 lakh pounds would earn some interest at this percentage. So it would become 5,20,000. And because this investor had already entered into a contract, forward rate would be 1.60. So now he would have to sell these pounds at this specific rate. So again on 31st of March, the investor would reconvert the pounds into dollars. At what rate? 1.60 pounds, right? So we would have dollars 832, right? So now we know that our profit is $32,000, and this profit is earned using the covered interest arbitrage strategy. Now assume the same example. What would happen is that to capitalize on this covered interest arbitrage, investors would be selling dollars and buying the pounds in spot market and selling pounds in the forward market. So what would happen to this rate in the spot market? Because everyone would be buying pounds, the demand of pound would increase in spot market, and when demand would increase, its price would go up. What would happen to the price of pounds in this forward market? In forward market, the supply had increased of pounds and hence its price would fall. So imagine that this becomes the new prices. So for the future investors, the investors that would try to attempt covered interest arbitrage in future, okay, so now let's try to calculate the profit of this investor with these new spot and forward rates. So we have 8 lakh, we convert it into pounds, so that would be 1 pound by 1.62 dollars. We have dollars here, so then we would have pound 493827. Let's earn some interest on this amount. The interest would be 4%, so we would have 513580. Let's now convert this into dollars back, so 1.5. So we would have almost 8,16,000. So we know that there is a profit of 16,000, but is investing in home country more profitable or less profitable? So if this investor had invested in its home country, it would have earned how much? That is 816,000. So what does this show us is that now even if you try to exploit covered interest arbitrage, because it doesn't exist, you won't earn any higher return than investing in home country. So investing in home country would be equal to investing in foreign country. Why is that happening? Because in previous slide we discussed that due to change in the demand and supply of pounds, the rate would adjust in a way that the higher interest earned in UK won't give any additional profit, because when we reconvert the pounds back into the dollars, we would receive less dollars as we would have received in the spot market. Okay, so this would realign the exchange rate due to covered interest arbitrage, as many investors capitalize. That is to say that they try to earn profit, they try to exploit, or they try to capitalize on the opportunity of covered interest arbitrage. There would be an upward pressure on the spot rate and downward pressure on the forward rate, and hence once the forward rate has a discount from the spot rate, for example in previous example the forward rate was lesser than the spot rate of 1.62, so that is to say that forward rate is at discount from the spot rate, about equal to the interest rate advantage, covered interest arbitrage would no longer be feasible. So now, although you are earning 2% extra return by investing in UK, but when you reconvert that currency back into the dollar, that extra return would be foregone. Okay, so let's do one more example. So the spot rate is 2 euros per dollar. The 1 year forward rate is 1.8. Interest rate is 10% per annum. The interest rate in Eurozone is 5%. You have $1,000. Should we invest in home or should we invest abroad? So what we need to do is we need to calculate profit if we invest in home country, right? So investing in home country, that is to say home country is US. So if we go back, if we invest in US, we have $1,000, right? And what interest rate would we earn? We would earn 10% interest rate. So 1,000 into 1.10, that would give us 1,100, or we know that our return percentage would be 10%. So what if we invest in euro, in eurozone? What would happen then? We have $1,000 and the spot rate is 2 euros per dollar. So now what we need to do is we need to convert these dollars into euros. How do we convert it? We have to buy $1, so dollar would be cut off and we would have 2,000 euros. Now we deposit these 2,000 euros in a euro bank account, and how much percentage would we earn? We would earn 5% per annum. So this would be 1.045, sorry, and we would have, at the end of the year, we would have 2,100 euros. Now we need to reconvert these 2,100 euros back into the dollars at forward rate. Why forward rate? Because the forward rate mentioned here is 1.8. So imagine on the first day when we are converting these $1,000 into euros, we have already signed a forward contract with a bank that we would buy back dollars at 1.8 euros per dollar. Okay, so this would give us $1,166. What is the percentage return over here? One thing that obviously it is higher than this one, but what is the percentage return? The percentage return would be 1,166 minus 1,000. This is our current value. This is our initial investment divided by initial investment. So we get 16%. So should this investor invest in home country or in abroad, that is eurozone? Obviously it should invest in eurozone because we are earning higher percentage return as compared to the home country. Okay, the second part of the first part assumed that what if the investor's home country is US. The second part assumes that the investor's home country is eurozone. So now imagine that the investor's home country being the eurozone, and imagine you have 1,000 euros and you convert it into dollars. So that would be that the spot rate is 2 euros per dollar, right? So that would be per dollar divided by 2 euros. We would have $500. Now imagine we earn a return of 10% because by investing into US we would have 10% return. Now we have $550, and now reconvert these $550 at the forward rate, and we would have 919 euros. So what we conclude here is that for a US investor, investing in eurozone is beneficial, but for a eurozone investor, investing in US isn't beneficial. Rather, they should invest in their home country.